We're back.
We made it.
What's up, music lovers?
Hey, guys.
Welcome back to the Music Maniacs podcast with Sight After Dark, your new favorite band. I'm Dan Berg.
I'm Sifa Graffiti.
And today is a very special topic. I feel like our whole YouTube career has led up to this moment right now.
Definitely.
We're talking about a man.
The only.
We're talking about a myth.
The one and only.
We're talking about a really cool guy.
The bona fide true guy.
With a really cool mustache.
The best mustache in the business.
And his name is what?
Frank
Vincent
Zappa.
We're talking about Berg one of the greatest composers,
musicians,
rock stars,
writers,
guitarists,
filmmakers,
producers,
all around dad
of the 20th century, specifically in music and, artistic endeavors.
Yeah.
So before we get into it, I just want to say that here on the Music Maniacs podcast, our number one priority is not necessarily historical accuracy.
No, we have to say not at all.
Our number one priority is to have fun and to be entertaining for y'all for the whatever amount of time that you decide to spend with us.
Yeah.
We always try our best to be, as accurate as possible, but it's just not going to always happen like that.
No.
So definitely tell us what we messed up. We know that Frank's fans are very, very intensely into Frank, so don't come after us, okay? We love Frank too, and we love you for watching. But, try to give us a break a little bit, all right? So
yeah.
we're going to do our best, and we're very excited to talk about just an absolute genius in music, and I would just say kind of in life in general.
Yeah, we know you guys bring the fan in Fanatics, so we're definitely going to bring the fun in Frank.
Yeah, and the maniac in Music Maniacs. But we're talking about Frank Zappa. This was a man born in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yes, as Francis Ford Zappala. Oh, wait, no.
He later directed The Godfather and Apocalypse Now. No, so he was born in Baltimore, and his dad was a research chemist.
Yes, for the Navy.
Yes, for the good old US of A. Mm-hmm. And he used to be working on facilities that had like mustard gas and shit, like literally like chemical weapons.
All the safe stuff.
All the safe stuff that a young child should definitely be around.
Yeah.
And he used to literally bring home, like, as toys, like, gas masks and, like, tubs of mercury.
What dad wouldn't?
For his young son to play with. Which, maybe not always the healthiest thing to be exposed to as a young child.
No.
But, it is what it is, and that's just kind of how it went down.
You baby boomers.
Oh, you boomers, and you're playing with mercury all the time. But, so even just right away, just from that start, I feel like that's a kind of an interesting place to grow up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be involved with your dad being involved with like the government and the military in this research of chemicals, that it's kind of a brainy thing.
Yeah.
So he already is like at a spot where he's kind of at a way he can like analyze certain things that are going on in society.
Definitely a breeding ground for analytics and definitely some mental geometry.
yeah, something like that. And they moved around for a little bit and eventually ended up in California. In a town called Lancaster.
Yeah.
Which I had never heard of before.
No, I thought it was Lancaster, PA. I thought that was the only Lancaster. You tell us, Pennsylvania, which one is better?
Yeah, we're going to make a poll. Vote Lancaster, California or Lancaster, California, I was about to say. Pennsylvania. But whatever. So Frank ended up in Lancaster, California.
Yeah, about age 10.
Yes. And by all accounts, there's not a lot going on in this town.
No, I've heard it's pretty boring.
And this is something that we've talked about on the podcast before. I think in the Tom Petty episode, we were saying if you're from a town, and especially before the internet, where there's not a lot going on, there's only so much that you can really get into.
Yeah, it's pretty much like drinking, drugs, music. And, there's definitely other things you can get into, working with your hands a lot. I'm
Sports.
sure those are towns, for that. But yeah, Frank decided that he was going to get into radiology.
Frank became a meteorologist to fill the gaping void in his life. And, no. So they're in this Lancaster, which basically is in the desert.
Yeah.
So there's like nothing going on. So Frank basically ends up filling his time with music.
Yeah.
And from a young age, he was just listening to all kinds of different music. He wasn't getting formal training. He was really learning all this shit himself.
Yeah.
And he has so many great quotes. But one of my favorite quotes from him, he was like, if you want to get laid, go to college. If you want to learn, go to the library. And he was going to the library.
Yeah.
You know, so he was learning all different kinds of music. He was listening to R&B, he was listening to blues, but he was also listening to, you know, composers. Stravinsky, this guy, Edgar Varese.
Yes, yeah.
Who he did like I haven't heard any Varese yet. I'm definitely want to after this.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's like he's like the sound machine before there was Miami Sound Machine.
Okay, so the way that I understood it, he's just doing very like avant-garde, like dissonant things, like and just really pushing the boundaries of music.
Yeah.
So Frank, from an early age, was like, "Oh yes, I like this."
That spoke to him, which is cool.
He actually wrote him a letter. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, he wrote him a letter, and he ended up getting a phone call. His mother set up a phone call for his birthday as well, but. Yeah. Edgar was out on the town and he wasn't home. He was doing Edgar things, but he spoke to Edgar's wife.
Yeah.
And she was just like, you should call back, you know, when Eddie's home. You guys can chit chat, young man.
Yeah. And it's funny because Zappa didn't know where he lived.
Right.
But he was like, just based on how crazy his music is, there's only one place that he possibly could live. And it would probably be in Greenwich Village, New York City.
Yeah.
And it just turns out that he was absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And Greenwich Village will return to the story later on.
Yeah.
So Frank was listening to all kinds of different music from a young age. He met a guy in high school by the name of Captain Beefheart.
That was his name in high school.
That was his legal name. He was only ever had that name. First name Captain, middle name Beef.
Yes.
Last name Hart.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, so he's in California. He said he used to literally bring his guitar to school.
He did, and he said that like the rappers of today, he's like, you know how they dress in like hoods and like wear like shades and stuff like that. He was like, he was going to high school like that with his mustache and small beard as well.
Yeah, with his little wispy at the time mustache.
I don't know if I were in high school if I would want to hang out with that kid or just talk about that kid. I'm trying to decide. And I tried to decide when he was telling the story. Because Frank is kind of like tall and handsome. So I probably would want to talk to that kid and be like, who are you? What do you do? Why do you dress like this?
You would definitely be curious.
I would definitely be curious. But if he seemed kind of like, you know, like he wanted to chop people's heads off when he was walking down the hallways, then I'd be like, that guy's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like his vibe is more like just, I'm trying to do my own thing. Like, I don't want to deal with all you stupid motherfuckers.
Yeah, yeah.
Because this guy, I mean, we'll talk about it more. This guy was just so smart.
Yeah.
Like, you could see when you look at, like, interviews that people did with Frank, it's like he was clearly always the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem like he needed everybody to know that necessarily.
No, only when you messed with him and he had to pause the interview and let you know you were a jerk.
He said, he has so many just great quotes. He was like, a lot of people think that hydrogen is the building block of the universe because there's so much hydrogen. Me personally, I think the building block of the universe is stupidity. Yeah. Because there's so much more of it going around. Like, damn, Frank. How do you really feel? So, yeah, again, like we said, he was always, you know, he always had an analytical mind.
Yeah.
So he was always kind of like seeing society and seeing its problems and really just seeing right through the bullshit all the time.
All the time.
And he really used his music as a way to kind of shine light on that thing, that kind of thing. So he ended up kind of getting a group together. He actually, so he joined a band.
Yeah.
That, I don't remember what the name of the band is. Sorry. But.
Tell us in the comments. He joined a band that already existed. He basically ended up completely taking the band over. Yeah. Because it's like, how are you gonna, like, who's gonna compete with him musically? Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
So, I don't remember what this band was called, but Frank comes in and now it becomes The Mothers, which was short for The Motherfuckers.
Yes.
Because if there was a really fire musician on the town, it'd be like, ooh, look at this motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And he said that was presumptuous of them, too, because he felt at the time that they weren't that good to be calling themselves motherfuckers.
Hey, you got to fake it till you make it.
He definitely came out of that type of school. And he kind of started out as a drummer, a la Stevie Wonder. You know, I guess all the geniuses do that. I'm going to get a drum kit.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm not a genius. Never mind.
Everyone's got to get a drum kit, or else what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? So I might be getting my, the timeline mixed up a little bit, but I know at this point, he was like, also like going on TV, like playing bicycles as an instrument, which is just great. Go look up that footage on YouTube if you get a chance. So they were in LA at Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention now. Mm-hmm. And they're making this music. Well, he's making this music and composing this music. That's just insane. Yeah. I mean, it's just combining all these different styles of music and making it into a way that people never really heard before. Mm-hmm. And there's also a lot of intelligence in it. And again, like we were saying, he's kind of like calling out the bullshit of like American culture and American society. Yeah, basically like all the things that are kind of like natural and normal to us, he's putting a light on it and kind of trolling in a way, just calling it like as he sees it. And that was why he wanted to do his project with the Mothers, because like before he said he did some other musical venture and he was shut down because of making a pornographic video. Oh shit, was that before the Mothers? Yeah. Oh, because I do know about that. So I know that he had got a studio in California somewhere. Mm-hmm. This was around the time he was with his first wife. Mm-hmm. And he literally was living in the studio, like him and some of his friends, and they called it Studio Z. Yeah. And he was doing film scores. Yeah. Not necessarily porn. Right. He was doing a lot of film scores, but then he kind of gained a reputation as like the movie guy of the area. Yeah. And the feds were like, "What kind of movies? What kind of movies is this guy making?" So they basically entrapped him. Yeah. And they were like, "Hey man, we'll give you $1,000 or $800 or something," which was a lot of money then. Yeah. To make like a porn film for us or score it. And he was just like, fuck, okay. Like, I'm a broke musician, I'll do it. So then as soon as he gave him the tape, he instantly got arrested. Swarm. And they took all the tapes from all of his music in the studio that had nothing to do with porn. Yeah. And they just took all of his shit. Then they went home and listened to them and lip synced to them to their wives and stuff. And they were like, I love this guy. But yeah, so he actually got thrown in jail for like a few days, I think. I don't think his sentence got commuted or something. It was supposed to be a few months, but it was only ended up being like a few days. Right. He didn't do hard time. But that was just enough for him to be like, wow, fuck all of this. Yeah. This is some bullshit. Yeah. He eventually got some of the tapes back, I think, but most of it just kind of ended up getting lost to history. Yeah. So that was the end of Studio Z, as they call. Mm-hmm. For Zoo? For what's the Z for? I think it's just an alphabet thing. I think he just wanted to be the last person you think of for conventional music. Right. He was the last person you would ever expect to have a studio. So he's like Studio Z. It's no other reason when we call it that. Yeah. So after Studio Z, Frank Zappa and the Mothers becomes a thing. They get signed, and it's funny because they got signed based on their song Trouble Every Day, which we did a reaction video to. Yeah. And the guy that signed him was like, oh, this is great. They're like a white blues band. Yeah. So they signed him based on that, thinking they were going to be like a white R&B band. Little did they know. Little did they know. There were a lot more than that. Yeah. So they go in the studio. Who was it? Tom Wilson was the producer. Mm-hmm. So they go in the studio and they start recording the music that they're really making. Yeah. Which becomes an album called Freak Out. Mm-hmm. And this is some crazy shit. Yeah, absolutely. Who are the Brain Police and all this shit. Again, just completely like destroying American culture. Yeah. He was a satirist as well as a musician. Exactly. Yeah. And also kind of coined as the godfather of comedy rock. I'm into it. Yeah. Yeah. So the producers were like, oh, wow, this is what I signed? Oh, fuck. I'm scared. Okay. So it probably was a little scary. And it's also worth mentioning, it's crazy now because you hear that and it's like, it's called Freak Out and the music is so trippy, but Zappa never did drugs. Right. All he did coffee and cigarettes. That's it. I mean, the regulated drugs he did. Yeah. But only the healthiest. Not the illegal ones. Yeah. So it's just crazy because, this is at the time, this was, the 60s and the whole hippie culture was happening. And he was basically satirizing that into this album Freak Out, which is so trippy, but it has nothing to do with drugs. It's just, this is just his brain. Yeah. Yeah. It's something that drug people would listen to. Definitely. Yeah. 100%. 100%. So they ended up putting that album out, and it didn't do very well in America. Right. But it ended up doing pretty well in other places. Yeah, Europe. Shout out to you. And, it's funny because I was thinking about that. I was just like, why would that be? That, I mean, he's an American. He's talking about America. Like, why is it? And then I'm like, well, yeah, he's making fun of America. So if you're part of America and you're part of this society, you're going to be fucking annoyed by this.
Yeah.
You're not going to like this.
Yeah.
Whereas the people over in Europe, they're like, oh, you silly Americans. Well, you're doing a great job, Frank.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The hippies were like, you're supposed to hate the government, not us.
Yeah, he's like, we're the good guys, okay? Anyone that disagrees with us is wrong. But, so yeah, Frank puts that album out, and they're in LA at the time, and he was saying that LA was pretty conformist at the time, so it didn't really go anywhere, and they were kind of running out of places to play in LA. So Frank is like, we need to go somewhere where freaks are not only more noticeable and accepted, but a lot more frequent.
Yeah.
So where did they go?
They went to London. No.
They decided to go to New York City.
Of course. Which there was no real scene happening yet, though, which is hard to believe in a way. As somebody who kind of grew up in New York and is used to seeing a fair share of freaks all the time. It's hard to believe that there was no real scene in New York at the time. Yeah,
I thought that was interesting, too. I guess there was obviously... we're just going to use the term freaks moving forward, but we use that as like a quote, you know what I mean? Because everybody's fucking weird. It's just what kind of weird are you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, I'm sure there were freaks in New York, but just I don't know if they were all together.
Exhibitionally weird.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And even like, again, we've said this before, New York is so big, there could be a few freaks in Brooklyn and a few freaks in Manhattan and some in Queens, but they might not even necessarily know each other.
Right. That's true.
But Frank went to New York City, specifically, of course, Greenwich Village. They had a what's it called, residency?
Yeah.
In the Garrick Theater, which was on Bleecker Street.
Yeah.
So I looked it up. So shout out to the Village. Quick side note: anyone here, if you ever find yourself in New York City, make sure you go to the Music Inn on West 4th Street. It's right by where the Garrick Theater was, and it's just a great place. Lots of great instruments and just a cool vibe and great staff. So check it out. You're welcome, Jeff. But yeah, so they gained a residency there, and they did a lot better in New York.
Yeah.
Because again, people were more used to people kind of pushing the envelope in New York.
Yeah, he always said the vibes in New York were really great. Like, because we're just a bustling place over here. But no scene, but more accepted here.
Right. So the scene kind of ended up galvanizing around them a little bit, right? Because they were there for 6 months. They were playing shows all the time, and every single show was different.
Yeah.
There was a lovely lady that used to go to these shows by the name of Ruth Underwood, and I've seen some interviews with her where she was just saying, like you never knew what was going to happen on these shows. It was so exciting. Like there could be one show where it's just all music. There could be one show they're just talking about like fixing their cars and they're like throwing ice on the stage, and then the next show they could just be doing like a droning like 2-hour song, and then right in the middle they'll just play another song, and you just never knew it was going to happen,
which is really, really cool and crazy at the same time. And I just want to say, if one of you comes to 3 of our shows in a row, I will make you a band member.
You'll get a sticker too. So they were there for a while, just like really making a name for themselves and kind of, I guess, earning the respect of the scene and like all that stuff. And again, nobody had ever seen this before, so they were just like, wow, this is insane. And Ruth was she was a student at Juilliard at the time.
Yeah.
And her seeing Frank was just kind of like, wow, this Juilliard shit is lame, basically. She was like, this is exciting. Like, this is music. This is art.
Which is so cool. She probably just had her eyes opened after that, and she was like, she totally got him like right away.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. It's just such a cool thing. I'm sure it must have been such a crazy thing to be at this show. She was even saying sometimes there was more people on stage than in the audience.
Yeah.
So it was like a really small crowd. Like Frank got to like know all the regulars because there would be certain people that were coming to all the shows. They would see him every day for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And then eventually their residency ended and they went back to California. And Ruth said like she felt like the heart of the scene was just taken out of New York. So that's kind of cool that you could just go somewhere for 6 months and be like, we run this shit.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of vibe kind of happened even into the 90s here in New York, too. If you were part of a certain scene, if you went to the same place over and over again, you became, like, literally part of it. Like Ruth is saying, like, you can get to know the person on stage because the venues are not that big. The backstage area is not that big. If you have, like, a hookup to just, like, hang out or get a free ticket or be there, then you could just become part of that crowd. And
right.
Yeah, it's a small time before somebody's like, hey, you want to do a show? It kind of happened to us too, hanging out, talking. Hey, you guys want to do a show? Mm-hmm. It just goes like that. So that's cool.
Absolutely. So they finished their residency. They went back to LA and they kept making more albums as Frank Zappa and the Mothers. And again, America, and this is going to be, kind of a recurring theme, America, not so much of a Zappa fan.
No.
In general. Obviously, there's some people that are Zappa freaks in America. The people that love Zappa really love Zappa.
Yeah.
But as far as the broader American culture, he was never accepted by that because he's tearing them up. He's trolling them the whole time. Again, if you're the people that are being made fun of, you're not going to like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And even after a while, he was just the people that like him are an isolated crowd. Even in his later years, he was saying that, and it's kind of true in a way.
Yeah.
But in a good way, okay? We got the best kept secret.
Yeah. Don't get too big on us, okay? But yeah, and that'll be something that kind of recurs as we go through. But so they put out 5 albums, I think.
In 7 years.
5 albums in 7 years as Frank Zappa and the Mothers.
Right.
Before Frank was kind of I feel like I've gone as far as I can with this.
Yeah.
Because Frank always just had a crazy mind for music. Mm-hmm. And just he produced, and his work ethic was just crazy. I mean, just 12 hours a day, every single day, just music. And really at some point it became who can I get that's able to make this music that I'm hearing and writing?
Yeah, and that's kind of a throwback to his dad. If you're dealing with somebody that's dealing with chemistry and math and stuff like that, there's so many permutations, right? And that's the same thing for music. It pretty much is math,
right.
With feeling. And there's so many permutations. Hopefully. Yeah, they tried to say that Frank's music lacked emotional depth. It's what emotion? No, he didn't make me want to cry. So that's just a throwback. How many formulas of this can I make? And I think that's just what's set in his spirit. And he was just hey guys, let's do other things and maybe come back to each other after a while. And
even some of the people in the band were we weren't necessarily the best musicians. I mean, I don't think anyone, one of us could even read music. Mm-hmm. And Zappa, he's a composer. I mean, he's writing music. He's writing sheet music sometimes. At some point, he's I need people around me that are able to do this and read this. You know what I mean? So we kind of broke that band up. The first iteration of the Mothers. He put out a solo album, Hot Rats. Which was mostly instrumental.
Had one voice on it.
Yeah, Mr. Heart of Beef.
Yes.
Returned.
Yes.
The captain.
Yum.
I'm the captain now.
Which
he was the captain.
Also was mostly instrumental with one vocal, but still had a parental advisory sticker on it. I just found that out.
I think that was a later album because I don't think the parental stickers happened until the 80s.
Right, but someone still put a sticker on that.
Oh, after.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's just because they fucking hated Zappa.
I think so too. Yeah.
But we'll get into that too because he was literally talking to Congress about this shit.
Yeah. Shout out to our subscriber Charlie who let us know that information.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody that gives us any of their time at all. We appreciate you. So he puts out an album under just his own name, and everyone's okay, well, I guess Frank is going to go solo. Yeah. And then right when he does that, he gets the Mothers back together, but under a completely different lineup.
Yeah, different lineup this time, including more people than you thought.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I just want to try to go through, because it's so hard to remember all the people that have been in all of his bands. But after this point, he reformed the Mothers many different times with many different band members, and there's so many great musicians within these iterations of the band. I'm going to try to name as many as I can. I mean, we got Ian and Ruth Underwood.
Yes, the Underwoods.
We got Steve Vai.
Yeah.
Who as a guitar player, I knew Steve Vai my entire guitar playing life. I had no idea that he started in Zappa's band. I
did not either.
Yeah, so obviously I don't need any more convincing that Zappa's legit, but when I heard that, I was like, oh, what? I was like, whoa, this goes way deeper than I thought.
Yeah.
Who else? Mike Keneally.
Yes.
He shreds. We got Ray White. Great guy. We got, who else? We got Scott Tunis. We got that cute little drummer.
Terry Bozzio. And other drummers, Ainsley Dunbar, Chad Walkerman. There's so many.
Chester.
Thompson, right? Yes.
Yeah. Jean-Luc on the electric violin.
Yep.
Who else? There's so many people.
Napoleon Dynamite. No.
Napoleon Dynamite, yeah. He was there doing dance moves. There's just so many. Like, sorry to anyone that we're forgetting to mention, but that's why I'm trying to say as many now, because I'm not going to remember as we go through to shout everybody out at the time. Sure. Ike Willis.
Yeah.
Adrian Belew.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, yeah. So he reforms the Mothers, and the second time he reformed, or that he had the Mothers, it didn't go super smoothly.
Right.
They went to a show in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. At the Montreux Casino. And some stupid with a flare gun.
Yep.
What did he do?
Burn the place to the ground.
He burned the place to the ground with all of their equipment too, like thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment.
Yeah. This round now would be about $350,000 in equipment.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
And of course, this incident was memorialized in a certain underground song by the name of Smoke on the Water.
Yes.
And after that, literally like a few days after that, they're playing a show and some dude, I guess he was jealous because his girl was like looking at Frank a certain kind of way.
Girls, don't go to the concert with your boyfriend if you're going to do all that, okay?
Yeah, leave them at home.
Somebody's got to get you home.
And this dude basically rushed Zappa on the stage and like threw him off the stage, and he fell like 15 feet to the ground on concrete. And
the band members thought he was dead.
Yeah, they legit thought that he just got murdered.
Yeah.
And obviously he survived, but he got really fucked up. I mean, it hurt his back for like the rest of his life.
Yeah, chronic.
Like he said that one of his legs like healed and was like shorter than his other leg.
Yeah.
He fucked up his voice. It dropped his voice even lower.
Yeah, like a third lower, and like crushed his larynx. He had so much pain for like the rest of the time. He couldn't go on tour, so he had to stay in. He had to be in a wheelchair. And when he finally gets back on stage, he had a cast on his leg too.
Yeah.
Which is like crazy.
But during this time, he was, again, he wasn't touring. He was kind of stuck at home. And basically, whenever this guy has free time, he's working on music. So even during this time, he's still just pumping out music, and he's getting better and better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just never stops. I mean, his catalog has got to be one of the biggest catalogs of anybody since recorded music.
Yeah.
Right? I mean... He said his catalog was like 1,200 titles.
Yeah.
I'm like, how is that even... I can't even wrap my head around that.
I know. There was an interviewer talking to him, and they were like, well, I counted like 42 albums. And it's like, I just stopped counting. He was like, how many do you have?
Yeah. It's insane. So he keeps getting better. He gets physically better, brings the mamas back again, continuing to tour all over. And now he's getting into disputes with the record label. He's kind of getting over the whole record system, and he really wants to be able to create, independently. Yeah. And he fulfills his contract with Warner Brothers and then starts his own labels with distribution by major labels, which is a super important thing to say. Yeah, I mean, that kind of put him in a top 10, which is really great for him. He ended up being able to have total control over his music. And he's able to produce, he's able to write, he's able to distribute all of his own shit. Yeah, and he was making an album every few months. It was like seasonal. Yeah. I mean, it's insane. I mean, his output was just crazy. And not only the output, but the variety of music that he was able to create is just unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I know many other people that can do a super hard rock song and then like compose classical music basically, and then like an avant-garde like art collage piece, and then a blues song, and then just and everything in between, doo-wop. Yeah, you know what I mean? But do all of it super well. Right. We have our immortal poetess Lady Gaga. Yes. she's definitely put herself in a little bit of that sphere, but she's not a composer necessarily. She is an instrument player, and she does play that very well. Right. And makes different types of music, and she does it well. Like, it does chart and stuff, and people do like it, but she's a little bit different. And there is a connection between those two. Bleecker Street? No, but Italianness? I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to all the Italians. But no, so I don't know chronologically where this was, but at one point Zappa and he had it until he died, this huge house in the Hollywood Hills with his own recording studio in his house called the Utility Muffin Research Kitchen. And after he died, Lady Gaga bought that house.
Go Gaga.
So she had access to that studio as well, which
she knew. She knew the deal.
Yeah, she knew what's up. She's definitely a Frank fan. But like, I mean, that's also crazy because again, now he can record all of his stuff in his house, put out all of his distribution, all of his shit. He really made the life that he wanted.
Who here wants to roll out of bed and work and that's it?
So he really just created the life that he wanted for himself.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is another reason why he got kind of some hate and some underratedness because he completely broke out of the corporate structure.
Yeah.
You know, and we've talked about that before. So it's like we've talked about like why is he not on the list of greatest guitarists of all time when he plays guitar in such an amazing way that not only does he just fucking shred, but the notes that he chooses are just unlike any other guitar player that I've heard. Yeah. And we always talked about, like, why is he not talked about in the upper echelon of all music, really? Yeah. And we think it has to do with that. For him going against the culture of America, him going against the corporate America, and just always being him and his own person, you're going to make some enemies like that.
Definitely. Because there's a good amount of people who, like, just does everything that the country wants. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter who we're going to war with. It doesn't matter what we did overseas. It doesn't matter what kind of laws we're making here. They just support the country completely. And a lot of those people have a lot of power, you know? So, you know, kind of, it's kind of
and they're all
upset
Cuban.
To see
Sorry, what?
They are. It's kind of an upset to see somebody like Frank who just completely goes against the establishment. I wonder, does it have something to do with having a military dad, Jim Morrison? Does it have something to do with that?
I was thinking about that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if your family has that kind of structure that they're involved with, and you see that, it definitely could make you want to go strongly the other way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah, and even like Heart in a way. You know, they're like the first, you know, huge female rock band. They kind of are like pioneers as well. And they're not necessarily anti-establishment and stuff, you know, but they come from like a military dad background too.
Right.
And they were kind of like the first, you know, to do it, quote unquote, you know? So I don't know, you know, is it the rigidity of the household or your parental work that makes you be like, fuck this, or is it like nepotism? It's like, I can do what I want because my dad's part of the military. Fuck you.
What are you gonna do about it?
We are America.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's definitely, I think that has something to do with it, but I think that the main thing is just, again, how fucking smart this guy is.
Yeah.
And he's living in America, in this society, and he's probably just walking around all the time like, these fucking idiots. You know what I mean?
Not me, Frank.
Like, you know, there were certain people, you know, he gets along with.
Not you, Sifa. Thanks, Frank.
No, Sifa, you're fine. But you know what I mean? Like, he just walking around, just seeing. I mean, we'll get into, you know, the right wing Christian,
his friends.
The evangelicals shit. We'll get into that. But
yeah.
He's just watching American culture and just like, this is so stupid.
Yeah.
But also the thing about him, you know, it's funny because he's not partisan in the way that if there's something stupid, he's going to say it regardless of where you lean politically.
Yeah.
Right? So he started out making fun of all the hippies and shit. And that was what was big at the time. And then as he gets older, then the right-wing evangelical Christians arise and the Reaganism and shit. And then he's making fun of that. Yeah. So now kind of almost anybody could hate him.
Yeah. And they hate that he knows the hoax of it all. Like he says, like, well, you know, the media is not necessarily liberal. You know, the people that make the laws and that regulate what you see on TV, they're not liberals. They sneak a couple of things inside the TV to make it seem like there's another side and we should all fight against that side, like the liberal side or whatever. But it's really them. It's a Scooby-Doo of it all.
It was really you the whole time. Yeah, so I think that really just how smart he was is a big reason for why he ended up being so independent. I feel like just the way that his brain worked, it's going to be hard to put him in a box.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So now at this point in the 80s, he's got his own home studio, and he's always trying to push the envelope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's going to, what was it called? The Synclavier synthesizer or whatever, where basically was one of the first like computer synthesizers where he's able to create music completely by himself with a computer.
Yeah.
This is the 80s. I mean, that must have been groundbreaking at the time.
Yeah.
And it must have been so freeing for him because, like we were saying before, you know, we were talking about chemistry and permutations, and when you bring in all these people to make your vision come to life, there's all these variables. Mm-hmm. But if it's just you and the computer, he must have been like, oh, I have complete control of this. Like, this is the first time I've literally had control over every single aspect of this.
This computer is my minion.
Yes. Yeah. Basically. And then obviously during this time, he has a family, but he's not really around too much. Mm-hmm. And I feel like his relationship with his wife was kind of worse than a lot of people knew because of what happened later. Well, I don't want to skip ahead, but he wasn't home a lot.
Right.
Right. And actually, so his biggest single, this is so funny to me, was Valley Girl. Uh-huh. She's a Valley Girl, Valley Girl.
Sing it.
And the only reason that came to be is because his daughter, Moon Unit, never got to see him so much because he was like, the music comes first over everything, including really, it seemed like a lot of his family a lot of the time. Yeah. And his daughter was like, I never really get to see my dad. So her way of trying to reach out to spend more time with him was like, hey, do you want to like make a song together? Yeah. So they made this Valley Girl song as a joke, and it becomes his best-selling single in America.
You kids are useful.
And that's another thing I was thinking of, because this song is making fun of the whole, again, the commercialism of, you know, American society and like specifically the Valley in LA, which I've never been to LA. I don't really know shit about the Valley, but
no. Okay.
The song doesn't paint it in a great light.
No.
And it's funny because I was thinking, like, why is that his best-selling song? You know what I mean? Like this dumbed down stupid shit where he's making fun of everybody. Mm-hmm. But then I'm like, oh, well, again, he's so smart that it kind of only is right that the dumbest thing he makes is the thing that most of America likes. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is kind of like poetically like the way that it's supposed to be.
Right. We don't hate America, y'all. No.
I'm just channeling my inner Zappa, okay?
Don't come for us. Don't give us cancer.
Don't.
You know you gave it to him. No, just kidding. There's a story coming up.
Yes. But before that, so we got another thing. As time goes on in the 80s, he gets more involved in, not really involved with the government, but he becomes more noticeable to the government. Yeah. Because they start to do this thing where they're trying to censor music in a way. They're trying to, what was it called? The Parental Music Resource Center or something like that. It was Tipper Gore and a bunch of other senators and senators' wives and shit that they were trying to censor music. They were trying to put these warning labels on music. Correct. And Frank goes in front of Congress to tell them why they're all a bunch of idiots and why that's a bad idea. And he basically was right, because when you listen to what he was saying, he was like, all this is going to do is make people want to hear this stuff more. Exactly. And that's exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened. First of all, it kind of goes into like, well, what are you doing with music that you feel like it's going to influence people so badly? There was a woman talking to him saying like, oh, you know, they'll hear something about sex and want to go commit an act of violence. And he was just like, what is going on in that kid's home? Like, sex is normal. It's natural, you know. Curses. He looked up the four most used words in American like English, and it's like they're all curse words. Yeah. But you can't hear them like on the radio or on the TV, and he's just like, that's just crazy. So I mean, like, what do you want music to do? Obviously, you're admitting now that it's influential and it can influence like listeners and stuff like that. So it's only what you put out that you want to influence the people. Right. That's kind of fucked up. Right. Yeah. Exactly. So he testified in Congress that this was a bad idea. And it's funny because I grew up in the shadow of that. That had already happened, you know, when I was listening to music. Mm-hmm. But we talked about this before. When I was growing up, if I went to the store, and this was, you know, when CDs were a thing, and there was a CD that didn't have that label, I was like, this shit must be lame. Yeah, true. Like, I don't want this. And especially if there was two versions, right? Yeah. There would be the clean version and the explicit version. You want to get the explicit version. You always want the uncut. Yeah, always. Right? I mean, I'm definitely not the only kid that thought that. No. Like, so Frank was totally right about that. And again, completely against the system.
Yeah.
So just all these little things add up to a lot of people not liking Frank again, including, now government officials.
Yeah. The biggest gang on the planet.
Right?
The USG.
The USG coming at you. And it's really interesting, though, because he continues to be a hero to a lot of people in Europe.
Yeah.
He becomes like a symbol of free speech.
Yeah.
And there's certain places in like Eastern Europe that was under like the Soviet Union control that he really is like a beacon of freedom for them.
Yeah, at this time it was was it Prague or it was
Czechoslovakia.
Yeah. Yeah, which is now 2 different countries, but back then it was one country. And Frank, this is an example of your star just got too big, Frank. You just went too far. He gets into cahoots with the president.
Yeah.
Right, and he's just like, look, if you need anything done in America, you come see me. Just
come talk to me. And the president made him an official representative of the government of Czechoslovakia.
Yes.
Right? Which is insane.
Yeah.
And he goes over there, he visits, he meets with, all these government officials, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. I think there's statues of him over there to this day.
So amazing.
And then... Who was it? It was Dan Quayle was the vice president, right?
Yeah,
at the time, he's over there, and the president of Czechoslovakia says, oh, yeah, Dan Quayle's coming over. And Frank's kind of like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Or like, he says some shit about Dan Quayle, and it gets back to him. And they already didn't like him because of the whole congressional thing, where I think one of the people on the panel was like Dan Quayle's wife or some shit like that. So they already didn't like Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
And then they heard that Zappa was talking shit about him.
Yeah.
And Dan Quayle, this is the most insane part of this story. Dan Quayle says to the president of Czechoslovakia, hey, you could do business with the United States government.
Yeah.
Or you could do business with Frank Zappa.
Yeah, basically that's how it went down. I think it was a congressman too who rerouted his whole trip just to come to like Moscow and tell them that too. Like, okay, all right, well, like what's going on here? You know, do you want us or do you want Frank Zappa? Because he doesn't have his own country.
Yeah. He's going to start the country of Zappistan. That would have been, if he lived a little longer, that would have been the next phase in his life. But yeah, that's just insane that you get to that level that like governments are literally opposed to you like that.
Yeah, and that was like 88. So that's like around, when they had to sneak in the suits and,
I didn't really think about that.
Organize the conspiracy against him and get into private rooms. It's like, how can we get this guy? What does he do? What drugs does he do? He doesn't do any drugs. No fucking drugs. Oh, shit.
I thought he was a musician.
What is he? Somebody's addicted to something. He's got to be to something. It's the sex. The sex. All right, let's get some girls in there. Let's get some real hot girls.
But no, it's just, I just always thought that was insane. It's just like, how fucking petty are you? You know what? Like, seriously,
do you live here?
I know. It's just like this is just such a clear example of just like, you're really gonna let this fucking musician like change your policies?
Well, I mean, that's how easy it is to sway people. All they need is like a beacon of like a little bit of freedom, because we're in a free country, but there are a lot of things that people just don't agree with, and you got to regulate those freedom fighters. What kind of freedom you're talking about? Freedom is a variable.
You talking about our kind of freedom, or your kind of freedom?
That's
right. So obviously, if you're the Czech Republic, you don't really have a choice in that situation.
No, you need the arms, you need the soy, you need the wheat.
Yeah, so you gotta choose the U.S. government over Frank Zappa. But that's what I'm saying. It's just even saying that, it just sounds so ridiculous.
Yeah.
You have to choose the government or Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
But again, it kind of proves what the kind of level that Frank was at. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But yeah, so around this time, he stops touring and has some health problems.
Yeah.
He was diagnosed with inoperable prostate cancer. Mm-hmm. And, obviously there are conspiracies about that.
Yeah.
Some people might say that, there might be a lot of reasons to take him out. But some people might also say, hey, when you're playing with mercury and mustard gas and shit when you're a kid, that can also kind of lead to some health problems later on.
It can, and, chronic cigarette smoke can lead to other forms of cancers, said by the FDA. Check out their website.
We're sponsored by the FDA.
We hate Frank too.
They also, another thing, when he was a kid, he used to get sinus infections. The doctor just put radium tablets up his nose.
As you should.
As all the medical professionals agree, is the best way to go. So there was a lot of things that could lead to a lot of health problems. And even, it was funny, I was watching, he did an interview with Howard Stern in like the last year he was alive. And Howard was like, "Oh, so Frank, you're still smoking, huh?" And he was just like, "Yeah. Why not? I'm already fucked," basically. So he wasn't going to stop. But again, he never stopped making music.
Yeah.
Because he already set this whole situation up for himself where he could just be in his house. He doesn't have to do anything else. He can wake up, make music. He has a whole distribution network. He has people working for him. He doesn't have to leave his house to continue creating music and putting out albums once every couple of months.
Yeah. He was basically building his own country right there in the studio.
He was building Zappa in the utility muffin research kitchen. Yeah. Gee, that's a mouthful, Frank. He probably did that on purpose. But yeah, he continues just to continue creating music up until, the cancer got him. And the amount of music that he had probably still unreleased is just amazing. I mean, they were saying that he had archives in his house because he eventually had bought back most of his masters from before he started his own stuff,
too. Way before,
And he recorded almost all of his live performances. So he had just archives and archives and archives in this house.
Yeah.
And I mean, I literally saw a documentary. It was so funny. It literally looked like they were going to an archaeological dig. These guys, they had the fucking hats with the lights on them, and they're like, "Oh wow, look at all this stuff." And it's like, this wasn't that long ago, dude. He was alive 3 months ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but it's just insane the amount of creativity and the prolific nature of his work. It's really unmatched. I mean, in the modern era. I mean, who has put out that much music by themselves? Yeah,
definitely. And just him as a composer and him as a person that had the ear for music, like his both sons, like Dweezil and Ahmet, were just like, they can't believe his ability to like hear a wrong note, like, like with all that's going on stage, and he will get it, he will hear it and know exactly what's going on. That and his ability to just keep making music, to what did he say, his goal pretty much was to annoy a lot of people that that got annoyed really quickly. Like, if you're the guy that gets mad when somebody cracks a joke, then you've got a target on your back, according to Frank Zappa.
And that also made me laugh. It kind of made me sad because I was thinking about it. He said something like, I'm down to offend anybody that's easily offended.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, fuck, I wish Frank was around because there's so many people that are easily offended.
Yeah.
And he would just destroy everybody. I really would have loved to hear what he would have to say about, the present day.
That's why.
But
had to go.
Yeah, some people probably didn't want that. Yeah. But and he was saying the Dweezil and Ahmet were saying that he could literally be in a room with a full orchestra and pick out one wrong note.
Yeah,
which is something that he had in common with another Francis Sinatra.
Yeah, that's true. James Brown used to fine you $5 if you mess up. If you ever saw him on stage going $5, that was the amount of money that he was charging his band for like screwing up. And I remember listening to those performances and not hearing like it's all sounded good to me.
Right.
But yeah, that ability, also the ability to just when Ruth was saying anything could go down on stage, and he would do like a hand signal, or he would like mention, he would just be like, and Montana, and then all of a sudden the band would have to like start playing that, you know, that in itself was crazy. And you would think like as a composer, as a band leader, he would thrive the most when he did his work with the orchestras and the symphonies, but he kind of said that was like the worst time for him because he felt like the quality of the music, like they didn't really, exude everything that he wanted to like portray in his music. But that probably had to do with them kind of being like I know they're skilled musicians, but it's kind of like box musicians,
right?
And like that whole freedom and getting into playing these notes. They probably, while they were playing the notes, were like, "What the fuck am I playing?"
Yeah. They weren't used. They were definitely not used to any kind of thing like that.
Yeah, But yeah, definitely one of the greatest music minds of all time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
It's severely underrated because a lot of people, again, had some problems with him.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that, I think he would be widely regarded as not only one of the best guitar players, one of the most prolific composers, all of these things, one of the most prolific producers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he was not getting that credit for a lot of different reasons. Yeah. So we're hoping that this can, I don't know. Not that we do anything, but we want to spread the knowledge. You know what I mean?
This will probably bring out a couple of trolls that we get on a Zappa on a Zappa reaction. Who absolutely
trolls welcome. All trolls welcome. We'll take it. If you're trolling us, we'll just take it as that being a tribute of you to Frank.
I was about to say, yeah. I was just thinking about that before I said it. Like they've become a Zappa. You know what I mean? Because we'll have people be like, Zappa, talented.
This isn't music.
Ha ha ha. You know.
But something else I wanted to say. This is what I was saying. I feel like it wasn't really talked about, like his family life. I feel like him and his wife might have had some troubles that really didn't get out there, because before he died, he said to Gail, his wife, sell everything, get out of the music business, it's fucking evil.
Yeah.
And as soon as he died, she did the exact opposite.
Right.
She created like the Zappa Family Trust and bestowed upon the children percentages that she thought was fair. So she ended up giving Ahmet and Diva 33% each, and Moon Unit and Dweezil 20% each. So now what that means is that if Dweezil or Moon Unit want to use any of Frank's music, they have to go to their younger siblings for permission.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fucked.
Yeah.
And Dweezil, as a lot of people would probably know, he really carried on the torch for Frank.
Absolutely.
Because he had the guitar chops and he was, very talented musician himself. And he started touring Frank's music as Zappa plays Zappa.
Right.
And he actually got in trouble with his own fucking family for using his own last name.
That he did.
They sent him a cease and desist letter.
Yeah.
And this is really funny though, but he ended up being like, oh, okay. So he ended up making a tour called like the "Fuck You, I'll Play Whatever I Want" tour, the cease and desist version, or whatever, which is great. And I think Frank would have appreciated that. But that's crazy, right? That you that's your brother.
Yeah.
And your dad. You're gonna really be a stickler about it like that?
Listen, what do the contracts say, Dan? No.
I didn't read it. I wasn't there. Sorry. But I mean, I know we're definitely missing things. Like, there's just he's done so much. I mean, if we tried to name all of his albums, that could be a whole hour podcast by itself.
Yeah, all the albums and all the musicians, that worked with him. No, it just couldn't happen.
There's just no way. So again, like, we definitely missed some things. Like, tell us what we missed. Tell us what your favorite era of Zappa is. It's funny. We used to say, tell us what your favorite Zappa album is.
Yeah.
But if everyone's like, there's no fucking way I could pick one album. Yeah. There's so many different kinds of styles of music. So I feel like it's more fair to tell us what your favorite era of Zappa is.
Do you have a favorite era?
I think the 77 to 84 era.
Yeah.
Right? Because like with the Palladium concert and Halloween.
Yep.
That's just like, it just feels special. When you watch those videos, you're like, this is just some kind of magic here.
Yeah.
Not to say that the other versions aren't.
Right.
But I don't know. There's just something about that. I just feel like he was really at peak, like, live form there.
Yeah.
He
was definitely in the Zappa pocket. The Zocket.
The Zocket. He's always in the Zocket. Tearing up those solos.
Yeah.
And it's something I've said in some of the videos that we did reacting to his music. I always thought it was really cool how he was so comfortable letting everybody have their shine. Like, he didn't seem like somebody that was like, no, this is my music. All the attention has to be on me all the time. Like, he really understood, like, all of those musicians were able to bring something special to the table, and he let them go for it.
Yeah.
And I even saw Ruth was saying something like, it was super structured. We had to be under, like, the iron rule of Zappa, like, no drugs, no this, blah, blah, blah. Like, it was very strict, but at the same time, there was a lot of freedom in the music, because at any point, he had those the hand gestures or whatever.
Right.
He might just say something. All right, what do you say, Ruth? And then she plays a little. You know what I mean? So there's still a lot of freedom in it, even though it was so regimented.
Yeah.
Which is something that a lot of musicians said they really appreciated about it.
Yeah. Sounds cool. Man, oh man, Mr. Zappa. What a beacon of freedom. I'm gonna call the presidents of Prague and also of Czechos. And also
the
Slovakia.
Czech Republic and Slovakia.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to call them up and see, you know, if they want anything represented over here in America, they could just call Sight After Dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
And then they'll get a call in a month. Hey, you could do business with America or Sight After Dark. Okay? But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm missing something. I don't know. It's just like, but again, there's just so much to possibly talk about. It's like, and you know, we just go off the cuff for this. We're not looking at notes while we're doing this. So
no.
So let us know what we missed. Let us know what you like most about Frank. Let us know what stands out the most to you when you think about Frank.
Uh-huh.
For me, it's just, again, how smart he is as a person. Not even necessarily just the music.
Yeah.
Just how, like, even you look at his eyes, and it's like, this is a smart fucking guy.
Yeah.
You know?
When I was doing research, I was just like, I don't know if I want to hear the music or if I just want to hear him talk.
Right.
You know, it was a hard split down the middle, you know? So yeah, I just love to hear him talk, you know, about everything. There was this one interview that he did. I just have to put this in here. This one interview, he was overseas and they were like, okay, well, you make all your music making fun of the American way and stuff like that. And now we see you're driving a Cadillac now. He's like, so what? They're like, well, why would you be driving that? Isn't that like, you know, they're basically saying that's like the American car, like, right. You know what I mean? A caddy. And it's like everybody, when you make it, you get the caddy. And he's like, so what? He was like, the difference is I was broke when I started. He was like, if I had the money to get a caddy then, I would have had a caddy then too.
Yeah.
You know, so that was the funny part about that interview. And then they even made like a little film after it where they like, they put the interviewer inside the caddy and he refused to get out because the caddy was so roomy. And it was great. And he like, I mean, just a total America's first troll. That's a bad way to say it, but that's a good way to say it. A
troll pioneer.
Exactly.
Oh, he put out a movie at one point, 200 Motels.
Yes, yeah.
Part of the band at one point was Flo and Eddie.
Yeah.
From the Turtles.
Yeah, who couldn't use their original names either in the Turtles because they were hit with a bunch of lawsuits and concerns because of that. Whoa, come on.
And it's just funny because because during the time when they were in the band, it was very like slapstick, like comedy oriented, which again could be another reason why he's considered like the godfather of comedy rock. Mm-hmm. And that's just, it's such in contrast to like his stuff before, which was very political and satire, to just go into this like comedy and then eventually go back to making fun of the other side of the political spectrum, right? Which is all the fucking evangelicals and shit, with their heavenly bank accounts and such. So they're just, that's what I'm saying. It's like I really just hope that we're doing him justice.
Yeah, me
because
too.
There's so many different aspects to who Frank was, not only in business, but in music, but in art. You know, and he just did so many things that it's really hard to sum it up in a 1 hour conversation. Yeah.
I appreciate his advocacy for self-learning, self-teaching, you know, because what did he say? I'm a middle-aged dad of 4 kids. Middle-aged Italian dad, okay, because that's a difference.
Hey.
4 kids, and he was like with a high school education, you know. I think he went to like 1 semester of college and then just left. But like
where he learned how to film porn. Sorry.
But like teaching yourselves, if you want to learn something, if you want to know something, you go out and do it. And this is like, he was teaching himself this before there was an internet. He actually put on shoes, left the house and was like, this is my mission today. And that's like one of the greatest things such a genius artist could ever say to anybody that's trying to get into not only music, but trying to do anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like listening to Frank not only makes you, you know, kind of understand him, but it makes you think more. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the greatest thing that an artist can really do is to like create sparks in other people. And especially like, you know, I mean, I would say nobody was making music like him at the time, but nobody's really ever made music exactly like him. No. So I just imagine there's so many people that probably heard Zappa for the first time and just like, you know, a light bulb went off their head. They're just like, wait, you could do something like this? This is insane. Yeah. You know what I mean? And the amount of creativity that was probably sparked because of Frank is, you know, that's something that, you know, you can't really quantify that, but it's just truth.
Yeah, I could definitely say that. I could say that about the punk era, you know what I mean? Because he was big in Europe as well. And, you know, he's one of those artists that talk about that people say, you know, people are on the stage for too long in the 70s and they want to come out with their own kind of thing. I definitely felt like he started a way for that. A lot of his sound started a way for like early hip hop too. Like, you know, I mean, I could say he had a hand in just about everything. So yeah, definitely people hearing Frank Zappa like sparked a lot of like internal flames where you could just be like, oh man, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I'm not doing enough.
Yeah,
like, you know,
right. And that's like not even to mention the fact that you could take any singular aspect. Like me as a guitar player, I could just study his guitar playing forever.
Right.
But he also is compose and conduct music and literally be the conductor at the front with the wand and all that shit.
Exactly.
So it's just amazing. Like anything, if you're a musician, like any kind of music that you're into, you could probably find something from Zappa to be inspired by.
Yeah, correct.
Which I don't know how many other artists you could say that for.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I'm sure there are many artists that will like not necessarily be into Zappa, but like you said, when you were like, well, Steve Vai played for him, I'm sure there are people that can be like, oh man, this artist plays for him, that artist played, like Adrian, like so many other people, and be like, well, I like them, what about Zappa do they like, you know what I mean? You could start a little rabbit hole.
I love that he credited Steve Vai as stunt guitar.
Yeah.
Which is just hilarious.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, only musical excellence when it comes to Zappa.
Exactly. Should we do a part 2, the musicians of the Zappa band?
Maybe that'll be Patreon only. That's a teaser, guys. Check us out on Patreon. Help us keep doing this. Patreon.com. That's Music Maniacs. Also, check out our music. We make music.
Yeah.
Sight After Dark. SIGHTAFTERDARK. Wherever you stream music. Check out our other YouTube channel where we do, you know, our original stuff and we do reaction videos.
Yep. Check out our Zappa reaction videos.
We got a lot of them.
A lot.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there anything else that we should say?
No.
All right. So you heard it here. We got nothing else. We're zapping out. So thanks again for being here. We're the Music Maniacs. We're Sight After Dark. Yep. Tell us why you love Zappa. Tell us all your favorite things about Zappa in the comments. And we'll see you soon.
See ya.